All right, friends, this is stunning. Under the Musk-Trump administration, we have seen a string of high-profile aviation disasters, including the first fatal commercial plane crash in 16 years. But despite that, Shadow President Musk and Donald Trump purged the Federal Aviation Administration, which was already understaffed and overworked. And now, after another near miss, Elon Musk is publicly begging for air traffic controllers to apply at the FAA, the very administration that he just purged. The temerity is off the charts. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, for context, okay, this is from the New York Times. I'm sure you've seen this, but in case you haven't, 2 planes in Washington and Chicago abort landings to avoid collisions. The near misses on Tuesday, so 2 days ago, come after a string of aviation disasters, including the mid-air collision between an Army helicopter and a passenger jet last month that killed 67 people. So that's the context, a string of aviation disasters, some fatal crashes, others near misses. Also, as a reminder to set the stage, while all of this was going on, Donald Trump and Elon were purging the Federal Aviation Administration, okay, just recklessly, and trying to get FAA personnel to quit, to leave the government. As the Rolling Stone reported, Trump and Elon's pointless bloodbath at the FAA is even worse than you think. The Trump administration fired several FAA lawyers tasked with helping keep reckless and drunk pilots out of the skies, and officials are baffled. They've also, purged people who are responsible for safety, responsible for helping, reduce the overworked workload of the FAA. And all of this going on, knowing that these string of aviation disasters are occurring on their watch. But despite that, now Elon Musk is publicly begging people to return to the FAA, including air traffic controllers. So he says, there's a shortage of top-notch air traffic controllers. If you have retired but are open to returning to work, please consider doing so. And the backlash for Musk doing this has been pretty widespread. As Sam Stein from The Bulwark points out, a play in 4 acts. This is from March 11th. Biden wants to hire 2,000 air traffic controllers in 2025. That's Act 1. Act 2. Trump administration begins firing of FAA staff just weeks after fatal DC plane crash. Layoffs hit FAA, including employees tasked with producing air traffic navigation maps. That's Act 3. Act 4, Musk today. There's a shortage of top-notch air traffic controllers. If you've retired but are open to returning to work, please consider doing so. And as other people pointed out, there's actually a 5th act, which is that Musk is personally benefiting, enriching himself by trying to get contracts awarded for SpaceX, the company he controls, FAA contracts. We talked about it in a previous video, which also, by the way, proves that Trump was lying his ass off when he said that there would be no conflicts of interest, and anything that appeared to be a conflicts of interest, either Elon Musk would find superhuman ethics and remove himself, or Trump would step in and crush Musk and get him away from those conflicts of interest. Well, we see it in broad daylight that Trump is not overseeing Elon Musk because he's either too stupid or lazy, or perhaps he is, and he's just allowing Musk, his biggest donor, to benefit from the corruption. But Musk is enriching himself, is financially benefiting, and his companies are, despite the obvious conflicts of interest, at the FAA. This is insane. And people are roasting him all over Twitter. We're all trying to find out the guy who did this. Dave Chappelle, you dumb mother. If you just keep scrolling, people are calling him out for helping create the very situation that he's now scrambling to fix. You helped make this mess. You helped make this mess worse by continuing to recklessly purge, to take your chainsaw, to take your machete to the FAA at a time when this was going on. This is insane. It's absolutely insane. The Center for American Progress, as they pointed out, Trump's war on America risked a wave of catastrophes. And they give numerous examples, but I really want to focus on the FAA. Trump and his partner Elon Musk are indiscriminately bringing a wrecking ball to the government, following the Silicon Valley ethos of move fast and break things. But even Musk acknowledges his strategy means, quote, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. Nobody's going to bat 1,000. Most Americans agree that government can work better and can be more efficient. But Trump and Musk's moves are doing the opposite and will, in time, make us far less safe. Movies usually feature just one catastrophe apiece, But Trump's actions are hurtling America toward all of these simultaneously. When these disasters next strike, it likely won't be in a theater, and we'll know whose actions to blame. And again, just focusing on this one in particular. Planes crash when there are fewer air traffic controllers on the job and less oversight of aircraft maintenance. The Trump administration has cut FAA regulatory oversight, which is bad, and fired the safety-focused people who keep the FAA's radar, landing, and navigational aids running. Also, really, really, really bad. The day before America's first deadly plane crash in 16 years, Trump and Musk invited every air traffic controller in the country to resign. Remember that buyout? Remember how they tried to shrink the federal government by basically saying, hey, listen, anybody who's employed by the federal government, including air traffic controllers, listen, why don't you consider leaving? We'll pay you a very robust and generous severance so we can shrink government. Air traffic controllers were initially offered buyouts and told to consider leaving government. Again, they chose to do that. They chose to do that. And they chose to continue these buyout offers. It's insane. It's insane. As a consequence of this, as PBS is reporting, these aviation disasters, and close calls had people worried about flying. All the recent aviation disasters and close calls had people worried about the safety of flying. The midair collision that killed 67 people near Washington, D.C. last month was the worst disaster, but there was also the plane that crashed and flipped over on the landing in Toronto, which is a plane, a flight that originated in the U.S., the fiery plane crash in Philadelphia, and a plane crash in Alaska that killed 10, as well as 2 small planes that collided in Arizona. Those all came before the scary moment this week in Chicago when a Southwest Airlines plane had to abort its landing to avoid crashing into another plane crossing the runway. A plane landing at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport also had to perform a go-around maneuver Tuesday to avoid getting too close to another aircraft departing on the same runway. That's not to mention the time earlier this month when a Japan Airlines plane clipped a Park Delta plane when it was taxiing at the Seattle airport, or the security concerns that arose after stowaways were found dead inside the wheel wells of 2 planes aboard 2 other flights. In addition, a United Airlines plane caught fire during takeoff at the Houston airport, and a passenger opened an emergency exit door on a plane while it was taxiing for takeoff in Boston. And people are showing anxiety about flying we have not seen in a long time. Trump owns this. He owns this. Remember what the Republican standard was for Democratic presidents. Anything bad that happened on the watch of a Democrat was that Democrat's fault. It's your fault. You are morally and politically culpable, and you should pay a political price. That was their standard for Biden, Obama, Clinton. That's the standard. That standard cuts both ways. They're used to it not cutting both ways because Democrats have been overly charitable. As far as I'm concerned, that charity's out the door. That's the standard you try to impose on us, which means as far as I'm concerned, you're obligated to obey it. And we should enforce that standard. We should be calling this out. We should be drawing attention to it. We should be saying, what are you doing to make it safer? And why is Musk in this position in the first place? Seems to me that he's too stupid and corrupt to be in this overall position, basically as Donald Trump's co-president. And there should be a political price for this. The Democrats, both elected and otherwise, should be hammering this home. This is happening on Trump's watch, which means he's culpable for it, which means he should be held morally and politically accountable for it, especially when he doesn't seem to be aggressively trying to tackle the issue, no matter what Sean Duffy, former Fox News host and current transportation secretary, wants you to believe. As a matter of fact, Duffy seems these days to be spending more time beefing with former Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg, who is rightly calling out the Trump administration, than he is in taking this seriously. Remember when Trump just reflexively and then Duffy and the rest of the Trump administration followed suit? Oh, this is DEI's fault. What's your proof? Well, we don't have any, but it just feels like DEI. And then they tried to blame people with targeted disabilities. Oh, it's air traffic controllers and air traffic control FAA personnel with targeted disabilities, which again is bigoted and gross because people with targeted disabilities still have to meet standards for their jobs. So if they meet the standards, if they can perform the jobs as well as others, who gives a damn? They meet the standards, don't blame them. And then it turns out that the pilot program that was created to give people with targeted disabilities positions at the FAA, including air traffic control positions, was created under the Trump administration. So Trump is responsible for the very program that he's now blaming is responsible for these crashes, which means no matter how you create this flow chart, it all ends up back to the same place, which is it's objectively Donald Trump's fault by his own Republican standard. It doesn't make any sense at all, but it's not about making sense. They're trying to deflect. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. I'm not responsible for it. I don't have an obligation to address it. None of that. But the consequences are very real. The people who died, but the people who may yet die, for their loved ones. The Trump administration needs to be taking this more seriously. Quit trying to purge, take a hatchet to the federal government. Use your head. Do this slowly, carefully, methodically. Trying to shrink the size of federal government, that can wait, and probably until we get aircraft and air travel back under control. Shameful, despicable. And that's why people are mocking Elon Musk now. Because Musk seems to be panicking. Oh my! Actually, we need more people. Instead of shrinking the government, we actually need to expand it again. So can you all please come back? Pathetic. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.